country knows her as Lieutenant Anita Van Buren, the complex, no-nonsense boss of all those tough guy detectives on Law and Order. To the theater, however, she is also the exquisitely level-headed sister in August Wilson's Piano Lesson, the haunting, poor abortionist version of Hester Prynne in that Suzan-Lori Parks drama with an unmentionable title, and a loving, furious guide through the scrambled memories of a wife and mother on the dead-end Chicago street in Cheryl West's Birdie Blue. Welcome to Women in Theater. I'm Linda Weiner, theater critic of Newsday, and our guest is Epatha Merkerson, who was a theater treasure before she was a TV treasure, and lucky for us, she keeps coming back for more. So you don't take it easy on hiatus. You don't.
No.
No summer stock for you.
No.
You know? I think I'll play an abortionist today. Yeah.
No, I realized at one point that I hadn't been on stage in 7 years. And when I went to do a play, I did The Old Settler at the studio, the Studio Theater in D.C. And I was so scared. And I thought, this is not good. This is where you belong. So I made a promise to myself that every other hiatus I would do a play. I think it's important.
And tough ones, you know? I mean, Birdie Blue and the Suzan-Lori Parks play.
Right.
How foolish that we can't say. Both really difficult women. I had a feeling that, oh, look, she's got enough money, she can pick what she wants to do now.
That's really kind of the bottom line. Yeah,
isn't that great?
It really is true. And you know what I do on Law and Order is important, but I'm not stretched, and so I need to do something in the summer that will allow me to sort of blow out. Like, you know, you'll put a car on the road and take it up to a speed and to blow it out. I need to do that every year so that I am satisfied when I go back to Law and Order and I'm in a scene where I have 2 lines. So it's important, and it also helps feed what I do with Van Buren, just because my brain has been working in a very different way.
Yeah. I mean, I always feel like that you play maybe 5 keys in Law and Order, and you play them very, very well.
Right. I mean,
but you get the whole psychological keyboard in these characters you're choosing.
That's absolutely true. And the thing with Law and Order is you're right. It is sort of 5 keys. You know, she listens, she reacts, she tells them what to do. Maybe 3 keys.
Yeah.
And so it's like I said, it's very important for me to have the opportunity to really sort of see how far I can go and what's new. And there's something about being on stage that you just can't replace with a camera.
And you do them in small theaters. Mm-hmm. This is not your star vehicle musical revival summer project.
No, because I find that the most interesting work is in the smaller theater. Not to say that it doesn't happen in the larger theaters or on Broadway, but the more detailed work happens in those small theaters, and that's where I come from. I mean, when I first came to this city, you know, literally you could go from theater to theater. There were so many lovely small theaters that were in existence then, and a lot of training ground for me. So whenever I have the opportunity to go back to those little theaters, it's fun. It's good work. It's hard work. And you do the kind of characters I would never think of having the opportunity to do on television, let alone, you know, in a big film. So it's fun to get back on stage on those little stages.
Well, although you did get to play a character on television in the Lackawanna Blues, right?
Right, absolutely.
Which began as a solo play for Ruben Santiago Hudson,
right.
And then he opened it up for the movies.
Yeah.
You won your Emmy.
The interesting thing is I saw the play down in D.C. at the Studio Theater, and I was so impressed with it. I'd heard it was here, and I missed it when it was in New York. So having the opportunity to see it there was really great, and he told me then that HBO had purchased the rights, and he was thinking of, and he's in the process of writing the screenplay. And then when I found out that George was directing it
George
again.
George C. Wolfe. In the Public, formerly the Public.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and I had never worked with George. And so the opportunity to work with him as well was quite a joy. And he works, it's interesting because I felt like I was doing a theater piece working with George, because everything he does is so theatrical. So that was a great opportunity as well.
And just, this is the end of 2005, and there's all these 10 best issues and things. And John Leonard in New York Magazine this week just called you the best actor of the year.
Listen, I had to email that to my family.
Yeah.
That was very cool.
Yeah, and he's smart, too.
That was really sweet. I mean, you know, I'm 53 years old. I've been doing this a long time. And to have this kind of recognition at this point in my career is really kind of sweet. And the response that I'm getting from people for my work is so appreciated. It really is.
And when you won the Emmy for Lackawanna Blues, I do think that it was the only honest moment on the whole show.
It was honest.
People were still, I mean, I went back to like chat groups, they're still talking about it. Wasn't she adorable? You basically wrote and we believed you. You wrote your speech and you put it in your cleavage and you lost it.
Yeah. And see, what I didn't realize is that it was a strapless dress. Yeah, I always keep a little 20, and you know. And so I didn't realize it was a strapless dress, and you're getting in and out of your seat, and so everything moved, you know, and you know, I did it because I thought, well, if you get up there, Epatha, you don't want to look like an idiot, which I think I ended up looking in retrospect.
No, it was a great, honest, funny, lovable moment.
But
really.
It really was an honest moment. I mean, because when I realized it was gone, there was nothing I could do. And my mother, and I could just hear my mother saying, you know, why would you put it there? Why would you put it there? That's why I yell out to Mom, you know, Mom, I really lost it, you know. It's just too funny.
You took her to the Tony Awards when you were nominated for the piano lesson,
right.
And you were miming, it's my mom.
Yeah.
So you have good times at these awards.
I do, because, you know, they're not expected, really, you know, and you hear actors say this all the time, but it's really true. You really just want to do the work. And so when you have the opportunity to do the work and you're given such a response to it, and it really is, I don't even know the word. It's just different, you know, because you don't do it for that. You really enjoy working. Mm-hmm. And I, you know, remember hearing actors say that for years.
Yeah, and you thought, oh yeah.
No, but it really is the truth. It really is the truth. And I am just tickled by all the things that are going on now. I'm loving it. Yeah.
So there you were, this little girl in Detroit who wanted to be a dancer.
Yeah. God, you've been doing your research.
That's really
excellent.
I prefer to have you think that I actually know everything about
me.
And I have photos of you in my room, and I am the stalker.
No, that would be the stalker.
Okay, born in Saginaw, Michigan, but lived in Detroit.
Yeah, grew up in all my schooling.
And big family, and Dad left when you were very young, and there's that amazing mother.
Yeah, my parents separated when I was 4. I'm the last of 5 kids. And we were all involved in music in some sort of way. My mother still sings in the church, and she's a good egg, you know, raised us all by herself and did a pretty good job, I'd say.
She drove an 18-wheeler for the post office.
Man,
now this is something, who wouldn't figure that?
But you know, she had to do that to work in the vehicle operations department that she worked in. She was the first woman to do that. And the great thing about that is that my mother's like she's a pump girl. She likes heels. She drove it in a pair of heels. You know, because she didn't have to drive it all the time. She just had to know how to drive an 18-wheeler because she worked in this part of the post office.
And she took him to court and won?
Yeah, she took him to court because she was up for a promotion, and they had her train a young white woman, and they gave the job to the young white woman. So my mother took them to court, and she got all her retroactive pay and her position.
She did better than Van Buren did when Van Buren took them to court.
That's where we got the story
Is it?
from. Yeah, that's where we got the story from. Yeah.
Yeah, because the lieutenant, I've read that you sort of think that in some ways she's like your mother, that she would dare to go into a male-dominated sort of white profession.
Yeah.
and demand respect.
I absolutely do think that the character is more like my mother. In fact, when sometimes I'll watch the show and my mother wears her hair like that, so it even looks like my mother sometimes. There are moments where literally I can see my mother. But you know, one of the things that I can recall as a young woman is being told that anything that I wanted to do in this world, I could do it if I educated myself in it. Mm-hmm. No one can take your smarts from you. They can take your job. You can get another one if you're educated. They can do a lot of things, but they can't take your smarts. And when you're educated, and she used to say this to us all the time, don't walk around stupid. Mm-hmm. Don't walk around stupid. I love that. And because once you have knowledge in something, that belongs to you. So she's a good egg. She's a good egg.
So how'd you go from wanting to be a dancer to get into theater?
Well, because I'm basically lazy. I think I'm basically lazy. And the idea of like being physical all my life, I think that's what kind of swayed me. And I was in school, and a friend of mine had to take an elective, and I had done theater in high school. But a friend of mine needed to take an elective, and she decided to take this acting class, and she wanted me to take it with her. And then I took another and another and another till I realized I actually had a major. I was working on a major in theater. So I finished with the Bachelor of Fine Arts. I have no idea what she ended up doing. I haven't been in contact with her, but it was because of this.
And came right to New York.
Friend. I went up to Albany, New York.
Children's theater in Albany.
Yeah, one of the worst jobs I've ever had.
I thought it sounded really horrible.
Yeah, it was really, really one of the worst, to this date, one of the worst jobs I ever had. And it had nothing to do with the kids. It really had to do with the people who ran it. But it was, I learned how to sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow in Hebrew. That was like the one thing I can take from it.
No call for that, I bet. I could do the Star Spangled Banner in Spanish.
Okay,
no
call for that.
No call.
But it's something that you have that no one can take from you.
That's true. That's true. And where did Pee Wee Herman fit in here? Well, chronologically.
Well, that was around 86, 87, 86. I in the middle of doing some theater. I was doing a series of one acts in New Jersey, in Trenton, New Jersey, at the Passage Theater, and had gotten this audition. And the morning I left for the audition, I'd thrown my mail in my bag, and because they told me it was a mail lady. And when I got to the audition, I started reaching into my personal mail, and I had gotten something from the Museum of Natural History, so I started singing them boom, da boom, and I thought it was funny. It tickled me, and I started laughing, but the girl had no sense of humor, and she asked me to do it again. So I did it again, and I got to that part, and I just laughed again. It was just funny to me. And then I heard nothing, so I figured, okay, I blew that. And then I heard they changed their casting people and they wanted to see me again, and that's when I had the opportunity to meet Paul and the rest.
And you was 3 years, 4 years? I mean, you were there a long time.
I was there the whole time. I think it was like 5 or 6 years, really.
With Lawrence Fishburne?
With Lawrence Fishburne, Jimmy Smith.
What a cast.
Yeah.
It was really hilarious.
It was extraordinary.
And there you were, the mail lady, which, not to like overstress this mother thing, but
I know.
She worked for the post office.
I don't know, she follows me everywhere I go, my mother. Yeah. But who would have thunk it? But it's true now that you brought it up. It didn't even occur to me, but yeah, and at that time I think she was still working too, so she may have been, I'm not sure. But it's very funny, yeah.
When you were in New York, you've said that there was an alliance, a whole little circuit of African-American theater companies off Broadway. Mm-hmm. And so you didn't get a lot of money, but you could work all the time.
All the time.
What happened to it?
The government, the government took the money away. A lot of those programs were CETA programs. They were fed through the government. And there's a combination of getting the money and then not really learning how to fundraise properly for small theaters. And so I think it was a combination of both things happening. But literally, I could rehearse a play, open it, and start rehearsal for another play. And as an actor, I found that so valuable because of the people that I had the opportunity to work with. Mary Alice, Morgan Freeman. I did a musical with Morgan Freeman. I did a Toni Morrison musical. No one knows that Toni Morrison wrote a musical called Storyville.
Excuse me. Yes.
And just all these wonderful actors, Mary Alice, people who've been working in the business for years, and I had the opportunity to stand on stage with them, Earle Hyman, and work with these people, Gloria Foster. I mean, it was an incredible time for black theater in this city, and unfortunately, it isn't as strong as it was then. But for me, I came here really unsure of myself and my abilities, and then had the opportunity to find a strength in a theater community and people who were willing to pull my coat and come back, and teach me things. And I think I was very, very lucky when I came to this city.
Joe Papp gave you a silver Tiffany pen?
Gave me a silver Tiffany pen. Rosemary Tischler, I ran into her on the street. I'll never forget this.
We've just interviewed Rosemary Tischler, the
She's fabulous.
casting director.
Yeah.
Yes.
On Broadway, I was going north, she was going south between 72nd and 73rd. I had just come off the road doing understudying for Colored Girls and ended up actually having one of the parts. And she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I just got back." She said, "You want to work?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Come and see me tomorrow."
Well,
I went down to the theater and she gave me a job. My luck in terms of working in this city, because I've made my living as an actor. I had 2 weeks of a job as a receptionist at Knoll and Hilton booksellers.
they made you stuffed envelopes.
They made me stuff. God, you've done your research. You're very scary.
I like being scary.
You're very scary.
Yeah.
But yeah, but my ability to work in this city has just been sort of being in the right place at the right time with the right stuff, and so I've been really, really lucky and have worked with some of the best people. Denzel, doing a little one act with Denzel, oh, how dreamy is that? So it's been a good career.
Now, nobody really thinks about you as a singer and a dancer, but you were really, those are the parts you were understudying for were musicals.
Yeah. When I first moved to the city, that's what I did the most. And it was funny because I didn't realize that I would get typed, and I know there were people who could sing better than me, and I certainly knew there were people that could dance better. But because I could do a little bit of everything, it allowed me to work, and that was the most important thing. And then I had to stop saying, okay, I'm really an actor. Can I do this play? And then I started understudying. That's how I stopped doing the musicals, and I started understudying, and then I stopped understudying.
And then you ended up not having to be auditioned for the piano lesson?
Yeah, and that purely happened because of Meg Simon, casting person. Meg has always been a champion for me, and I had never met Lloyd Richards or August Wilson, but I got that job purely on Meg's recommendation, because I also think they figured, well, we've got a little time before we get to Broadway. If this girl doesn't work out, we can recast her. Yeah. But it literally changed the path of my career. Yeah. And I can honestly say every opportunity that I get that it was Meg Simon, someone who believed in me and my work, and Meg single-handedly changed the path of my career.
And doing an August Wilson, really basically the only woman in that August Wilson play for your Broadway debut.
It was fabulous. I mean, and the funny thing is...
And it won a Pulitzer Prize before it opened,
yes,
right?
It
so
did.
You're already in,
it
right? It
did. And the interesting thing, too, is I said I always it's the only time I put a limit on myself. I said I wanted to get to Broadway before I was 40. I made it at 38. But, I never limited myself. I always said I'll come here and when it wanes, then I'll do something else. But you know, I've been really, like, again, I keep saying it over and over again, but I've been able to make my living doing this, and going to Broadway with piano lesson and August Wilson and Lloyd Richards. It's like I really don't even have words for that experience.
So how horrible is this year to lose August Wilson and Jerry Orbach?
You know, it was a rough year in that respect, and you know, the thing about August that I find so fascinating is that here's a man who set out to do something and did it in his time span here, and it is such an inspiration to me. I think that when you say you're going to do something, you do it.
And he did the 10 plays,
and he did the 10 plays,
yeah.
And I think that we'll never know what, evidently we'll never know what he would have done beyond those 10 plays, but that we have that span of and that body of work from August, and that I was able to be a part in that, is one of the absolute highlights of my career. And then losing both he and Jerry, and Jerry especially, because I was much closer to Jerry. It's very sad.
I think everyone's still sad that Briscoe's not there.
Yeah, yeah. And Jerry was just like, on set, he was just a funny guy. He just loved making people laugh. If he got tired, he would like turn into a 12-year-old. He was just a great guy and a funny guy. And we were just talking about it the other day, about some of the phrases he used to use. Like if you do like 8 takes, Jerry would, like at the 9th take, go, okay, when you're done. Who didn't like that? Because he didn't want to do another one, but he'd say it like that. But
is it true that when Jesse Martin joined, then the three of you would sing 3-part harmony?
3-part harmonies for sure.
Okay, what'd you sing, show tunes?
Oh, yeah, because Jerry knew them all. Jerry and Jesse, they know all the tunes.
Jesse, of course, was in Rent.
And Rent, yes, absolutely. And I mean, there wasn't a genre that we didn't sing. And then one of the things that Jerry was excellent at was making parodies of songs. And so he would make these parodies and we would sing them in 3-part harmony. I mean, it really was a very musical set. I mean, it was akin to cop rock, except it was off camera. But we sang 3-part harmonies. Dennis doesn't sing as well, but we love him.
How strange is it to be playing a cop? I know that growing up in Detroit, you had some sort of horrible thing where police stopped you and your brother.
Yeah, yeah. You know, what I found, and I think that's what's good about growing up, is that, you know, when I grew up in Michigan, it was during a very difficult period. During the 60s, there were riots. The city was under martial law. There were trucks, you know, filled with soldiers and stopping people, and it was just a horrible time. And so I did not have a very good relationship with law enforcement for reasons, you know, that were happening at that time, that, you know, it was not safe sometimes, whether you were around law enforcement or not. And so when I got this job, I started meeting lots of police officers, male and female. And you know, it's a job. And it's a, you know, whoever you are, no matter where you go, if there's a bad apple, that's just who they are. And so every profession has that. Mm-hmm. But I have met some of the coolest law enforcement people, police officers, some of the sweetest people you would never think would go towards danger. Mm. They seem so meek and so kind, and you think you have to have another head to do that, and indeed you do, but good people. And so my attitude has changed tremendously about law enforcement.
If Law and Order were to end tomorrow, and you could do anything you wanted, what would that be?
I'd be on stage in a minute.
You'd just go right there, huh?
In a minute. A new Cheryl West play, new Suzan-Lori Parks play. I would be on stage in a second.
Well, we don't wish you to lose your job
Yes,
at Law and
please.
Order, but we would like you back on the stage as much as possible. Are you, do you have any plans now?
No, you know, they sort of drop in my lap, which is interesting. I always put out the feelers. I'm interested in doing something, and I've noticed in the past 4 or 5 years, things just sort of come. And so it's rare that I make plans to do things, because you never can in this business. You never know what's going to happen.
Our time is up, which is awful, but great.
Yeah.
And now I have to say your name again, and of course this makes me nervous.
Epatha.
Epatha, which is an Old Testament?
New Testament.
New Testament.
It means to be open, as in speech and sight.
Well, that ain't bad, huh?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for joining us. On behalf of the League of Professional Theater Women, I'm Linda Weiner, and this has been Women in Theater.